Thanks everyone for joining us. My name is Deanna Ting, and I am the Senior Hospitality Editor at Skift, and I am joined today by Ascent Processing CEO, Regina Ebert.
Hi.
Hi, Regina, thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate it. Regina founded Ascent 22 years ago, right?
It's 18 officially with Ascent, and then
Okay.
prior to that, I worked in the vacation rental space for a different company, and that was 94.
Great. And just yesterday, your company launched a new product,
We
right?
did, yes.
And it's called Ascent Pay, powered by Uplift, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Great. So, yeah, how did you sort of get into the payments space, or how did you get into the vacation rental industry?
That's a good question. I'm this old, I answered a job out of the newspaper, and it happened to be for a president's assistant job, and they were a payment processor. So he ran the whole sales team, and I helped him, and that taught me what to do and how to do it. And then I decided to start selling on my own, and we found it in Colorado.
Oh.
And so I would go up to the mountains, and I ran in, a certain ski town would have so many vacation rental companies, and that's really where we started specializing in vacation rentals, and shortly thereafter, back in that time, there was one software, First Resort software, that really serviced the majority of the market, and they needed an integrated credit card solution, and so we helped them develop the first ability really to accept credit cards right through the software.
I see.
So that was very exciting, and that really took off, and I've been specializing in that industry ever since.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Great. I guess, with vacation rentals in particular, do you see any sort of specific challenges associated with payments?
Absolutely. I think our industry, unfortunately, because you have an owner and a guest, and trying to satisfy two customers at the same time can be very challenging, especially if the guest doesn't like something and wants to charge it back. The owners take that very badly, and I feel like a lot of times the property manager's kind of stuck in the middle there for quite a bit. So really what we've done throughout our time is try to educate the property managers on how best to ensure that they protect themselves against chargebacks. As the documentation, what the card companies are looking for, really how to minimize risk and consequently decrease costs.
Right. And what would you say makes Ascent different from other payment processing companies that work in this space or work in this realm?
Sure. Honestly, I think just because we've been in this industry for so long, we decided to tailor our services to meet individual needs rather than trying to say, okay, everyone's going to be on this exact same. Everyone's going to use, this round peg. So we are more of a small specialized service. We can tailor things. We really do help each client. We look at their documentation. We kind of look at it client by client rather than just here's this program.
Right. And the majority of your clients, who would they be?
Vacation rental management, professional vacation rental management companies. Yeah.
Bigger or smaller? More
it doesn't. The size really doesn't matter. We find greatly we all start small, and some of us stay pretty small, and some of us grow quite large. And each, we're just thankful to have them as a client. And
right.
Yeah.
Would you say that the needs of the vacation rental industry with regards to payments, the needs of this industry are very different from other industries, like different from other brands in travel or hospitality, for instance? Or?
Yeah, I think, again, because you're servicing individual units that all look differently, you don't have a homogeneous, you can't say, all right, all our units are going to have a Westin shower.
Right.
Each owner I think thinks their house is the prettiest house, right? Even if it's avocado kitchen, because they really. So I think that lends itself when a guest comes to stay. There's variables, so the challenge is to make sure that the guest's expectations are met, so that they don't charge something back later, or they're unhappy with their credit card transaction, and that really still to this day the number one chargeback reason has been services not. Like they didn't recognize, or the services weren't as described. So they thought they were going to be on the beach and they weren't. So I think we're still trying to make sure we execute on the guest expectation side.
Right. What are your thoughts on the role of platforms or marketplaces like Expedia, HomeAway, VRBO, Booking, Airbnb? What are your thoughts on their role in terms of the payment space? And
Well, they're obviously very important on the booking side. I think for us, the challenge, particularly, like Booking.com, for example, when they're taking a payment, has that guest really been vetted? So that your credit card is not a fraudulent credit card. Has the guest, have they signed any documentation? Have you vetted that guest at all before they come? So there is a little bit of a challenge of the ease of booking online through a distribution site, and then, making sure that that payment is processed and that guest is happy.
Right. I know you mentioned chargebacks as a major problem sort of facing the space.
Yes.
What do you think are the best solutions for that issue or for that problem? Or do you see any future solutions that may be helped by technology?
Yeah. I think friendly fraud is certainly on the rise. So the more we can vet the guest, our new product, Ascent Pay, is basically an instant loan product, so that the guest can pay monthly rather than paying with their credit card. The advantage there is now you're vetting your guest more, and there's no chargeback risk to the property manager. So I think as technology advances and we're able to do more of that, kind of guest verification of some sort,
Right.
And technology will certainly help us in that.
Right. One technology that gets a lot of buzz in payments and all things financial is blockchain, obviously. What are your thoughts on blockchain, and do you sort of see it as a viable disruptor in payments?
I don't. I think for our country anyway, for sure, consumer habits still are pretty traditional. I think that for a large part, consumers still just traditionally pay with their credit card and are going to continue to do that because I want my Delta points. I am that consumer. I want my Delta points. I'm not going to lose them. So I don't, but I think that there's room for other options. I think it's important that we have other options.
Right. Do you see the potential for blockchain to power maybe some of those loyalty programs that you mentioned, like a Delta?
Certainly, and I think that again, it's in its infancy still, maybe, and so consumer adoption is going to be a major driver of adoption in our space specifically.
How much do you pay attention to mobile payments technology, like what we see in India or China, for instance? Do you see that sort of making its way eventually to markets like the U.S.?
It's difficult with lodging, especially in this particular space. You're doing a reservation well in advance of your arrival. You're taking payment in part or in full prior to arrival, and the guest is generally charged a percentage when they make a reservation. And so mobile payments in our space, it's I think a little bit more difficult. I don't see that the guest would use it as much. It's so convenient when I'm going through a fast foods drive-through, or whereas this, we have not seen that kind of adoption. No, and I'm not sure. I don't know if we will.
Right. What other do you see other ways for your products that you offer to evolve, or are you anticipating the development of other new products? I know you just launched one yesterday.
Yes,
but, what other ones would you intend to sort of launch going forward in the future?
Wow, that's a great question. It took us so long to get to this one. The payment space itself, the card companies and the card brands, it's a slow-moving giant, and so. I think the adoption of different payment methods is where we're probably going to go. I think the card brands themselves are kind of set, and so yes, loan payment, and it's so moving forward. We haven't thought of what the next exciting product would be.
What would those other alternative payments methods be, or what other alternative payment methods are we talking about?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Ascent Pay, we hope, is one of them, just paying monthly. I am embarrassed to say I really,
cryptocurrency?
after 25 years, we haven't really seen much of a change of consumer habit, not in this country.
Right. What are some other places that you've kind of looked at and sort of thought like, oh, that's an interesting idea or an interesting example?
My family's from Europe, Czech Republic, and going to Europe, certainly I feel like technology-wise, in some ways, they're more advanced on the payment side. They've been chip and PIN for so long, and we're just now adopting that here, and it's still not adopted everywhere. It's just making its way. And so I think that it's going to be a slow transition for us in this country as far as how we pay for our lodging, to choose an alternative that doesn't somehow involve our credit card. You know?
Right.
Did that answer it?
Yeah, it definitely does. Is there any advice that you have for folks who want to get more into the vacation rental industry specifically, and then likewise payments specifically?
I would say, especially in this market today, it would be important to understand what is going to differentiate your vacation rental company from a different vacation rental company. What is your product and what is your brand? Really be strong about it and be diligent about it. To set yourself up to succeed, because you're going to have a lot of competition in the space.
Right. Do you see a lot more consolidation happening in vacation rentals?
Absolutely, and in the payment space, it's been happening pretty consistently. I think we're just in that time, especially in vacation rental, where it was a sleeping giant for so long. And I think HomeAway coming into the market, and now Airbnb and all that, has really kind of put a spotlight on this industry that was really not paid attention to much prior to.
Right.
It was just really. So I think absolutely there's going to be more consolidation, but there's always room for the small, to start something new. Because if you do it just a little bit differently, or you have a more innovative idea, or your product is going to offer something that isn't being offered right now, so there's always room for new businesses or new small things, even with consolidation. And even in this payment space, that's the case.
Right. Where do you sort of see the vacation rental industry going maybe like 5-10 years from now? Do you think it'll get even bigger? Will it be a lot more professionalized, a lot more, I guess,
yeah, where do I see?
Yeah.
I think it will grow. I think as a guest, I so enjoy staying in a condo or a home. I like making my own toast in the morning. But it's really, it's a lovely way to vacation to have. And so I think that as consumers and travelers realize the advantages, it's just going to increase the demand. Especially multifamily vacations, you really get to spend a lot more time together. So I think that we'll continue to grow, and I think that technology obviously has made it much easier, distribution sites and being found.
Do you see a lot of parallels between the vacation rental industry and maybe like the more traditional lodging or hotel industry in some ways?
Yes.
Both regarding to like the business models, but also the payments models as well?
Yes. I think just integration is going to continue to be paramount. If you're not integrated into the systems that property managers are using, it's going to be impossible to continue on. And yeah, pretty much I think that that's going to be the key moving forward.
Right. Now, I know the vacation rental industry hasn't been hit quite as much with issues of data privacy or security like the hotels have most recently.
Yes.
Marriott. But so I guess, what are your thoughts on that space, and like how do you make sure that any payments processed through Ascent are secure, and that there is no there's no infringement of privacy or any data leaks? So
interestingly, the card companies, Visa specifically, they require each vacation rental manager to have a privacy policy stated on their website in order to take payments online. We require all our clients. The card brands require all businesses in the U.S. to be PCI compliant. Just the basic steps to make sure you're doing, just basic protection levels. And I really think that technology and the software companies and all the technology in our space has really come a long way very quickly to protect that information. Cards are tokenized now, and that's very new for us, where I think hotels probably they should have done it earlier too, right? Because they were just an easy target. But it is a concern because hackers, I think, to hack into Bank of America is really difficult, right? Or to a Wyndham or Marriott, but to hack into an individual vacation rental company, that's going to be a lot easier.
Right.
Because one owner may not be able to have an entire IT team that, has people checking to make sure everything's done. So we do really try to stress to our clients, it's imperative that you take the basic steps at the very least.
Right. One last question for me. What do you think this industry isn't paying enough attention to, but really should be paying more attention to?
Wow, that's a great question.
And it doesn't necessarily have to relate to payments.
No,
It could be
you know,
anything.
I would say from a personal aspect, I think we still have a long way, especially when you have a multifamily reservation. We still have a long way to go to get to know who all's staying in that house, and do those guests actually know who they booked through?
So like direct bookings.
Well, that or who they're actually staying with. So especially now, when we do a reunion or we do book on a distribution site, for example, I would say most of the family members have no idea what vacation rental company we're staying with. You know, they completely lost. They paid this company. They have no idea where. And that is something I think we really need to
think
improve,
more of
because
the
our individual
marketplace,
brands are so impaired. They're so important. And it's important to get that message out to the guests that this is the brand. We're the ones creating this experience, even though you may have booked the unit somewhere else.
Anything else you'd like to add that I didn't ask you about?
Oh, you're so sweet. I don't believe so. I'm excited for our industry right now. I think we just stepped out into the real world in a sense. Now everyone's paying attention, and I think that we have media attention. We have companies going public. You know, things that never really existed prior to now. So it is. Thank you for this. It was really great.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thanks, Regina. Thanks.